Let me know when you see it. See it? All right. Well, it's been keeps on being busy, but we're almost towards the end here, so not a lot to report other than all the stuff that's happening in the background, which is more of the same. Current actions, we've been working on completing Hardin, so we've been working back and forth with the city of Iowa Falls to get agreements in place so that we can have access to the site and build some of the things that we need to build. That's been an ongoing process that's taken quite a while to do. They had given us permission to access the site to build the actual site, which we did, which is a tower, the generator, the shelter. So that site is actually up and running. What remains is all the other things that have to be done at the site, like the landscaping, the regrading of the road that goes up the hill, and then some issues that we've had with the adjacent property owner. So we're working through those. We had to, in essence, stop doing that work until we were all in sync in terms of what was the final agreement, in terms of what kind of uh, reforestation, if you will, the planting of the site, and other agreements with the water flow control and things of that nature. So we couldn't quite continue finishing the site until we had all that stuff locked down. So I think we're pretty close. We got some permission so we can go up there and secure the site, which is one of the things that we wanted to do, build the fence around the site. Other than that, it's just sort of a slow process because there's a lot of folks involved on the legal side and on the city side and whatnot. Rock Rapids, again, that's been sort of a complicated one as well. That one is a very complex site. We've had the tower built and we haven't shipped it yet because we didn't want to ship it to a site that wasn't ready, especially if they were farming the land. So we've confirmed a couple times, is it still there? Is it still there? Any problems? So it's ready to go. But we want to make sure that we had all the agreements in place with Rock Rapids and Iowa Public Television as well. That's been kind of lengthy as well because there are some right-of-ways issues that we've had to correct for, where to put the anchors and whatnot, and also address other construction that's not related to the project but's happening at the site as well. So again, it's complicated because we are building a twin tower to tear down the old tower. So it's complicated, but I think we finally got the last drawing revised and approved, so we can start moving forward on that one. The next piece has been site cleanup and maintenance. I call it maintenance because we've been maintaining, if you will, the system. We've had several lightning strikes, so we've had to go to tower sites and restore the towers. So that's been, it's kind of complicated when that happens and we're in the midst of the optimization of the system. But it's one of those deals that it's just the norm, that once it goes into maintenance mode, the official maintenance mode, that's a different team of people that handles that. But right now, because we are still in this process, we are handling it amongst ourselves. So what that does is that it takes us away from doing certain things so we can restore those sites back into service because the system is being used. Alarm testing and wiring, so we've done a lot of that. We have a number of sites that are unique that are existing shelters. So we've been working to get those done as well because those are not the standard, like the standard shelters that we provide that have all the alarms built in. So some of these, the majority are DOT shelters where they didn't have the alarms that we would normally have. So we've been installing those and wiring those as well, so that you can have something that's more consistent with what we do on all the other sites. We've been working on completing the DAQ coverage testing. So we had completed before the bit error rate testing, which is an automated process that, that the fixed end equipment sends a known test pattern, and then we capture it at the remote end, and then we log all that stuff, and then we take a look at which ones meet the criteria and which ones don't. We had already done that one. This one is more of a voice, can you hear me now type test. And then we're also working on completing the functional acceptance test plan, which we have been doing since last week. And we did some more yesterday, and we're going to take a little pause to get some other things set up so that we can complete the, we have like 5 groups of tests that we have to complete, and we're done. And of course, we got to do the site walks. Visual perspective, here's what the bid error rate map looks like. So everything except for Lyon and Sioux counties, we left those out because the Rock Rapids site hasn't been built. Other than that, we tested every county. So we got 97 of the counties had been tested. And probably hard to tell on your screen, but we got very few red dots on the screen. Most of them are concentrated where we expect them to be. So we got some up here, we got some over here, some over here, and then down over here. Yes, sir.
This is Chris, since this isn't on the screen, for the record. Could I get a copy of this map? I've had a couple more counties recently ask me about getting this map for their county. So would it be possible to get a copy of this?
Yes, we can provide that.
Thank you, sir.
So overall, we're at 99.4% with those 2 counties missing.
And Melvin, this is Chris again. I've noticed that the local enhancements are not listed on this map.
Correct.
So this is just the state-built assets. So if there's been some local enhancements added since then, it's even better than this then.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The more that gets added, the better it gets in terms of coverage and in terms of route diversity as well. So right now, if we were to fail these 2 counties that are left, we would still meet the 95% coverage requirement. So we're very confident that we're going to pass. This would be a time for me to make a bet, but. All right, so the other piece is the DAQ, which stands for Delivered Audio Quality. And this map shows all the tests, all the counties that have been tested. And we still have a handful of counties that are being tested right now, which are the orange ones. So these names in the map are just the names of the individuals that are actually running them. So, and on a day-to-day basis as they finish, we kind of give them different assignments. So this is just so that we can track who's where. So an example, we have over here, can you guys see my pointer? No. Oh. Here I was doing this thinking. All right, so you can see in Kossuth County. So Kossuth County, we have White is her name. And so she's running Kossuth County. So when you look at the right side of the screen, we have talk groups in a little block there. So what we did was we created talk groups that are specific for this test. And we did it just for us. We didn't hand it to anybody else because then everybody else would do the same thing I'm about to do, which would be I'm curious to see what's going on. And then we'd be having a lot of strange traffic all over the state. So even though she's in Kossuth right now, when I look at this, I look at White, and it looks like it's talk group number 1. So if she is active, and I go to talk group number 1.
Breathe deep and smell the piney air.
So these are the funny phrases that are heard.
The host has talked and you made to serve.
It matters not if he reads these words or those.
So it's hard to understand these phrases, and that's why they're used.
The fly made its way along the wall.
So, because they're not logical to us, right? It's like, what does that mean? Our brains tend to fill it in.
No was the only sound.
So right now, if you look at your map, so she's in Kossuth and we're in
Do
Polk
that with a
County,
wooden
right?
stick.
So we're carrying the traffic all the way down here because it's a entire network, and we're able to do that because we set these talk groups as statewide talk groups. So we can give them,
Pal, 30 cents.
so we can give them the flexibility to do what they want to do without us having to just change and
The
change all the time.
doorknob was made of bright, clean brass.
So this is in Kossuth. So again, if I wanted to see, I don't know if Ritter's still there in Butler County.
The chap slipped into the crowd and was lost.
So that would be talk group 10.
So that's on a cycle every, how often?
Straight into the wood.
Every 3/4 of a mile?
So the way it works is it's a cycle. So all these radios are synchronized. And by the way, these are computer generated voices, female and male.
Take the hashtag and the watch
So
constant.
it tries to mix it up, right? And we call these Harvard phrases. There's 255 that are used, and they cycle through. So right now, by switching,
Took the lead and kept it the whole distance.
so now instead of using Kossuth, I'm dragging the Butler County traffic all the way over here so we can hear it too.
Up the knife.
We do this so that I keep one in the office so that I can make sure that they're actually driving out there and I can hear if there's a problem or not, right? So this is sort of it's kind of like a double blind test, if you will. So when they do their stuff, they don't necessarily know sometimes. So they'll go and turn on the speaker so that they can hear it. And maybe about 10 minutes later, they turn it down because they'll go insane at doing this for, 12 hours a day. It gets a little crazy, so they tend to turn it down. So what we do is here in the project office, we'll put our radio on and we can listen to make sure everything's okay. Sometimes what happens is one side doesn't transmit, the other one does, and there's different reasons for that.
So as they're driving along, the computer's set automatically however.
Correct. So this is what the setup looks like right now. So you have each team, and when I say a team, it's really one person. We've narrowed this down so that each person that's picking a county, they have 2 radios. One of the radios is on a fixed location, which means their hotel room. And the other location is a mobile radio that they set up in their car. So we're using rental cars. So we made these cables that clip onto the battery posts so that we can get the most juice that way. We can't plug into a cigarette lighter because the mobile radios will pop the fuses, as we found out in the process. So the only difference, if you look at these 2 diagrams, is that the fixed location has a power supply, which generates the 12 volts for the mobile, which we leave plugged into the outlet at the hotel and a desk. So each one is exactly the same. You got a mobile radio, you got the computer that controls the radio, and then there's some hardware in between. And then they all have the GPS antenna so they can keep track of where they are, and most importantly, what time it is, because it's the timing that's used to synchronize it back and forth. So what happens is that they're all programmed so that, for example, the fixed location at a certain point in time, it goes ahead and says, it transmits, and then it waits for 3 seconds, then it goes into listen mode. And then the one on the other side transmits while this one is listening, and while he's listening, it actually gets recorded into the computer. And then when this one is done transmitting, the mobile then goes into receive mode, and there's like a 2-second delay, and then the fixed location transmits, and then the mobile on the receiver on the mobile side on the vehicle then records it. So at the end of the day, each computer has audio logs, audio files recorded for every single transmission received. And then the driver takes the stuff, puts it together. They have to merge the transmit and receive so that you can have one huge file that has 4 audio files for each test point. That's going to be the source or the original for the mobile side, what was received on the fixed side, the source for the fixed side, and then what was received on the mobile side. So when the folks who are grading this listen to it, because again, it takes a while to get used to these phrases. After a while, you start to recognize them, but at first, if you're not sure, it's not that the audio is bad, it's just that your brain is not processing it. So they can listen to the original and say, well, what was it in the original? And they'll still say, what? And eventually, but you can see that the quality of the audio between the two is very, very close. So some of the things, so overall, you have here the ISICS infrastructure. So here's an example, right? So the fixed location will transmit to the fixed infrastructure. It'll go through the ISICS cloud, and then some other site will transmit it back to the mobile, and then back and forth it goes. So it's not like they're just talking directly to each other. This is the whole idea that we're testing the RF link between both of them. So we ran into some challenges. So it's been slower than expected. We've had issues where one of the headaches is that because we got the clips for the battery terminals on the cars, you pick up some of the hum that gets transmitted. You hear that little whistle. So we've done several things. We try to put the ferrites around the cable to try to minimize that, and that's helped somewhat. In other cases, the cables have again kind of you move it around a little bit, and an hour later you realize that, oh shoot, this wasn't recorded because this happened over here. In some cases, the folks in the some of these hotel rooms at the front door, they have a master switch. So you hit the master switch as your way out, or the folks that are cleaning the hotel room hit the master switch and it kills the power to the outlet. So then the fixed location stops transmitting. So we found, a lot of those little things that, after an hour of doing this, it's like, oh boy, I didn't recognize that there was a problem. So basically, we just go back and we retest it again. So we've had some of these counties where we had to partially retest, or some of them where we had to completely retest because we realized that there were some issues in that process. But overall, we're pretty close to being done. The functional testing, we're pretty close to being done. What remains for the functional testing is the kind of stuff that requires some additional coordination. So we have to, one of the tests is that we have to support transmission with with the original legacy system, which is called SmartX. So we require some coordination with Westcom to do that. Others are more intrusive, so we have to do another switchover of the cores, and we got to set some things to be able to do that, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to do in the middle of the night. So I know we've aggravated a lot of people in the process of doing it, a lot of this stuff, but it's kind of what we need to do so we can prove that things are working correctly. But overall, we're pretty good shape. And we're expecting other than Rock Rapids. I think Rock Rapids is just the long pole in the tent here. Hardin, we should be able to get that one done. Other than maybe the plantings, if we're still within the season to do that. But there's other things that they wanted us to do, like retaining walls. They want to change, for example, what the road is made out of, gravel versus asphalt versus cement, those kinds of things. But other than that, the overall system we're using, I know we've aggregated folks. Last month, we had somebody in the process of doing all this stuff that literally wiped out all of the router configurations. So we had outages throughout the entire state. Once we really understood what was happening, we had people, push the new configs into the routers, and we brought the system up again. It was time consuming, but it's just, we are intrusive in what we're doing right now. Once we're done, we don't expect to see that kind of stuff again. That's all I had.
be clear, the hardened site's transmitting, it's just the civil work.
Correct, correct. The hardened site has been transmitting for quite a while. We just need to finish up the stuff that's important to the city of Iowa Falls.
As the DAC testing is finished, do you know when you'll be able to return the radios that were borrowed to do that testing?
I have no recollection of radios being borrowed, so I have no idea.
Sign them out.
I think so this whole double blind thing, I want to explain that a little bit because there is a long delay between us doing the test, it being passed on for evaluation, us getting it back and doing a general assessment of it. That's when we find out, oops, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. So we resend somebody out again. So we have folks that are starting to turn in the kits at the office, but we're going to hold on to them